Okay, so this is my Peugeot 208 Allure Sport 2012 review. Finally got around to it. So I've had the car for about 4 months, maybe closer to 5. Put about 5,000k on it. Had a heap of problems at the start and still some residual problems that I'm getting on top of. I think everything's going to be okay. I don't think it's going to be anything catastrophic, touch wood. But I'll get into those. But first of all, I'll do the review, what I think of the car, how I find it, what I like about it, what I don't like about it. Obviously it's an 8-year-old car now, so you can find lots of brand new 208 Allure Sport reviews online on YouTube. It'll give you a experienced car journalist's perspective. So I'm not that. I'm just a guy who likes cars and drives a lot. So my review will be from that perspective. So excuse me if I don't get too technical about some of the aspects of performance and stuff like that. This is basically just what's the car like. And I'm a former 206 and 405 owner as well, so I've got a little bit of history with Peugeots, and I tend to like them as a marque. They've got their pros and cons, but they're pretty good cars generally. So I've stuck with them over the years. And some of the issues I've had with this car, people might wonder if I've made a mistake. Sometimes I wonder if I've made a mistake, but it is a very nice car. So as my review will explain, you'll see why I've stuck with it and hope to get somewhere with some of the issues I've had with it. So anyway, to get started, so the first thing is that the car's just very nice to drive. It feels comfortable, it's powerful, it handles very well, it's smooth, and it's just a joy to drive. It's a joy to be in. I never really find myself uncomfortable. I'll say when I first got it, in the first couple hundred kilometres or so, I found the seat a bit uncomfortable, but I think my spine realigned or something and it came good. I now find it actually quite comfortable sitting in it for a long time without getting any sore backs or anything like that, sore neck. Seats very comfortable. So I'm 140 kilograms, don't have the greatest spine in the world, so I can tend to suffer from aches and pains if I don't have a comfortable seat. So I haven't had any of those issues with this car, so that's all good stuff. The seat doesn't have any fancy settings to it. There's no heating, there's no electric adjustments or adjustment memory or anything like that. It doesn't even have a lumbar adjustment. It does have a tilt adjustment. It has the rake of the back seat adjustment, back to forward to front, forward to rear adjustment, and a steering wheel can be adjusted up or down. But that's it. So pretty standard, pretty basic kind of adjustments to the seat. Nothing fancy, but it's enough to get you by. The tilt adjustment is kind of like a height adjustment too. So you have got a bit of a height adjustment there in the seat. It's not huge, but it might help with for some people. I don't know if I've got it in a standard position or raised or lowered. I can't remember, but I'm not going to touch it because it's good as it is. So that'd be up for each individual to play with. But yeah, so the seat's pretty comfortable. It's leather with cloth inserts. This is the Allure model, and in particular the Allure Sport model. The Sport has a more powerful engine. It's a 3-door. It's lowered a little bit. It's got a bit of a body kit. It's got the alloy knob gear stick and alloy pedals. So yeah, it's a little bit more exclusive. It's got the sunroof, although I think all Allures have that panoramic sunroof. We'll get to that. Yeah, so it's a little bit sporty, not a GTI, but probably the next thing down from a GTI in terms of power and performance. Yeah, so that's the comfort. Okay, so other interior appointments. Like all Peugeots, it's very ergonomically satisfying. There are 3 or 4 irritating things where I think Peugeot could have made it much better choices in terms of ergonomics. So I'll explain those. I'll deal with them first to get that out of the way. And just before I get much further, bit of history. I'm travelling out I've come out along Samford Road, and I'm now in Samford. So this is a little village just out of town, near where I live, and it's changed over the years. I remember when this was a 1 street town, and it's still a 1 main street town, but it's also quite spread out quite a lot. So it's become quite a popular little tree change area. And we'll continue along here to Dayborough, which is another town very similar to Samford, but smaller and more further out, so not quite as popular. You know, I guess that'll be the next, or probably is the next, tree change destination. Anyway, that's Samford. That's it. We're through it. So back to the review. Okay, so the negatives with this car, just to get those out of the way. The negative interior, the trim appointments and ergonomics. Okay, so number 1 at the top of the list, I like my coffee. This car has worthless cup holders. And this, I hate to say it, Peugeot, but this is the same for every single Peugeot I've ever owned, which is another 2. None of the Peugeot I've ever owned have had decent cup holders. So the cup holders, so in my 206, a cup holder, there was a cup holder in the side door, and you could put something parallel in it, parallel cylinder, like a can, but you couldn't, or a bottle, but you couldn't put a cup of coffee in there because the way it was designed, bumps would squeeze on the sides of the cup because it's like a conical shape, and pop the top off. So it was death for a cup of coffee, a takeaway cup of coffee. And this car's even worse. It's got 2 little cup holders. So this is the Allure Sport, as I said. It's got 2 little cup holders in the center console, and they're very small. You can barely fit like a Red Bull can in them, and they're too low that even if you could fit a coffee cup in there, it'd just fall over it when you turn a corner. Completely and utterly useless. So I'm going to have to look at some sort of third-party modification alternative to cup holders in this. At the moment I just keep a McDonald's cup holder lying around, which is fine if I've got no one in the passenger seat. anyway, I'm going to have to come up with some sort of solution for that. I'm heading out to Dayburn, and I just noticed my petrol's quite low. So you might have to turn back. It's a bit annoying. Okay, so anyway, so cup holders are a scratch in this car. Okay, what else did I find annoying? The air conditioning. Okay, the air conditioning has dual controls, so the passenger can control their own side, which is brilliant. Should be in every car. However, in a Subaru, for example, you have the same dual control system. You can lock the two controls together, so the driver, if there's no passenger, can control them together. You can't do that in the Peugeot. So consequently, you end up with a situation where you don't want the two. So in the manual it says don't let the two temperatures get further than 3 degrees away from each other. Otherwise, you have the air conditioning fighting itself. So that means you've got to adjust the two controls separately. So say the passenger's on 18, you're on 21, you want to go to 22, and you've got no passenger. You want to bring theirs up to 22 as well, or even just keep them locked together. You can't do that. You've got to do it. You've got to do them each independently. So you've got to adjust yours, and you've got to adjust the passenger side one. You can't just go press a button and have them locked together at the same temperature, so you can move them both up and down just with one button press. So that's a little annoying. Look, these things I'm mentioning, the cup holder one's really annoying. These other things I'm going to mention, probably not really that big a deal. Just one of those things that, well, it's a review, so I've got to mention the negatives as well as the positives. So the dual temperature controls can't be mated together, have to be adjusted independently. What else we got? Okay, I'm just going to pause there. I want to check my... I don't know what happened then, it just shut off. The battery's alright, so I don't know whether it's overheating or what. That's pretty annoying. So anyway, let me continue. My car says range 145 kilometres, which would get me to Dayburn and back, no worries at all. But let's head back to Sanford and Ferny Grove and put some petrol in the car. But the economy on this is brilliant. That is one of the reasons why I chose this car on paper. But certainly hasn't let me down at all. So anyway, let's continue. See if the camera holds out. Maybe heading in the other direction, the sun won't be pointing directly on it, and it might have a chance of it not shutting off if overheating is the problem. That's something for my GoPro review, which I'll do eventually. GoPros aren't a panacea for video. They're good action cameras, but they're not good. They're not great video cameras. They're adequate. They're not great. A lot of cheaper cameras do better video. But anyway, on with the review of the Peugeot. So I mentioned 2 irritating things about it. There's a couple other in there that I can't think of them at the moment, of course. And I'm sure it'll crop up. So anyway, what do I like about this car? Let's go on to some of the things I like about it. So these are just in terms of fit and trim and spec and that kind of thing, you know, driving aids and things like this. One of the things I'm finding that I really like about this car is the automatic headlamps. Only because they work really well. I've had other cars where that system, I would say, didn't really work very well. You know, didn't turn them on when you need them and turn them on when you didn't need them and all that kind of thing. But as I would expect from Peugeot with their approach to ergonomics, very thorough approach to ergonomics, they've made sure that the system works. So we'll give them a pass on the cup holders, but anyway, the automatic headlamps do work very well. So you just leave them in automatic mode. Whenever you get in the car, if it's dark, they'll come on. If you're going to a car park, they'll come on. If it's raining and you've got automatic wipers activated, then they'll come on regardless of the light level. So, which is actually pretty cool because it doesn't wait until it gets dark with rain for it to turn your lights on. It knows that if you're using the wipers, you're going to want the headlights on just for increased visibility, regardless of the light level. So I thought that was pretty intelligent. So I don't have to touch the light stalk except for indicating, and high beam. It doesn't have automatic high beam. Now with automatic high beam, I guess they could have implemented that quite well too, and they may do in later models. But one of the things that irritates the hell out of me is driving along and some idiot's got their high beam on and it doesn't dip for you. Like they might be on the other side of the highway, but they still need to have their wits about them and go, well, this is not an appropriate time to be flashing my high beam at people. But the car thinks it's okay. So far too many situations where I've been blinded by someone's high beam because they've just tried to let the car do the work and it just doesn't know that it's not appropriate time to have the high beam on. So I'm not a fan of it. Unless it works 100% effectively, it's dangerous to be flashing your high beam at people when, you know, in traffic when you're driving along. It's just something that needs to be more refined than that. So if you've got your headlights on in the wrong situation with automatic headlamps, well, so what? But if you've got your high beam on in the wrong situation, it's dangerous. So I probably wouldn't use the automatic high beam feature. If I had a car with it, I'd turn it off. So anyway, this doesn't have it anyway. This car doesn't have it, so it's not an issue. Not something I have to worry about. But yeah, I really like the feature. I mean, I know it's a simple thing, but I no longer have to worry, did I turn my headlights off? Did I forget to turn them on? Or you drive for half an hour, not some night, you know, and you go, oh, I haven't got my lights on. Or, you know, you come back to the car and you didn't hear the beep sound that the car makes when you forget to turn the headlights off. And you get back to the car and the battery's flat. You know, you don't have any of that kind of thing to worry about at all. So that is pretty cool. That's what automatic features in cars should be: set and forget things, taking tasks out of the driver's hands so they can just enjoy driving, and I'm really enjoying that. On a similar note, the automatic wipers are also brilliant. they also work very well, including, as I said, the integration with automatic headlamps. But the thing with automatic wipers is you have to turn them on. They don't come on automatically. You have to actually turn it on the first time. So if you turn on your automatic headlamps, just flick. It's as simple as flicking down on the wiper stalk. You just flick down on it and the automatic wipers are on. Then if it rains, they'll come on. If it stops raining, they'll stop. If it rains again, they'll come on, and you don't have to worry about it until you turn off the ignition, come back to the car later and turn it back on again, and it's forgotten that the automatic headlamps are on. So it doesn't remember that you've turned the automatic headlamps on after the ignition's been shut down. I'm not sure why it doesn't have that option, but it doesn't worry me too much. I mean, if it starts raining, you know you need your wipers. So you just tap down on your wiper stalk and it's in automatic mode. So it's very easy to initiate, and then you don't have to worry about it for that trip. So to me, it's not an issue that you can't permanently set them in auto mode. So yeah, and as I said, they work in combination with the headlamps. So if it'll turn your headlamps on if it's raining sufficiently. If it's permanently raining, not just kind of dripping on and off. I'm not quite sure what algorithm it uses to judge that, but at some point, at an appropriate point of it raining permanently, like constantly raining, it turns the headlamps on. If you've got automatic headlamps on, so that's pretty cool. And also, I've noticed that it judges pretty well whether you're going to need the wipers on. So the previous Peugeot had a 206. It had automatic wiper feature, but it was pretty useless. It would, you'd have to manually initiate wiping several times before it would think that it should turn them on for you. So if you're driving along and it started raining, they'd come on. But if it was just spitting a bit, but enough that you needed the wipers, it didn't turn them on. So you'd have to manually turn them on. That doesn't happen anymore with this car. It knows. It makes much better judgment. It's more sensitive. So if it starts spitting and you're in auto mode, it'll turn them on, and then stop when it stops spitting. It's sensitive enough that it makes that feature actually work the way it's supposed to. It's good. I like it. So yeah, those two, the automatic wipers and automatic headlamps, just gives it. I know they're small things, but it does enhance your pleasure of driving. It's just two of those things you don't have to really worry about too much when you're driving. You just focus on enjoying the drive. So very happy with those two features. In terms of automatic features, another one is the cruise control. So the cruise control on this car, it works perfectly fine. Actually, it works very well for what its specification is. It'll keep you at the speed. It'll keep you at the speed you're travelling at very efficiently. It doesn't do any things like crazy slowdowns or crazy speed ups, or take a long time to make up speed when you're going up a hill or anything like that. It's very accurate and very precise. Keeps you at the speed that you've got set, and it does very well. So there's no complaints with that. Also, just a tap, obviously the same with any cruise control, and it turns it off. But once you learn the technique in this particular car for turning it back on again, that actually works quite well. Just one press, tap, bang. So if you come up behind someone who's going really slow, you have to brake. It disables your cruise control. Then you get a brake. You can pull out beside them and go back to your original speed. It's just one press of a button, and the car's going back to that speed. And you can adjust the speed in increments of 5 kilometres an hour, or I think if you hold it, then it will go 1, 2, 3 kind of thing. So increments of either 1 or 5 kilometres an hour. So it's typical Peugeot ergonomics. It's effective. So from that point of view, it's a good cruise control system. But it doesn't have one of the now when I got this car and it had some mechanical problems and the dealer was sorting them out. Well, they didn't. That's another story anyway. I had a loan car, and it was a Forester 2019 Subaru, and its cruise control, which was the first time I'd actually had driven a car with this system. And most of the Peugeots from 2015 on have it. It's an automatic cruise control, so they've got 2 cameras up on the top of the windscreen that use like a binocular vision kind of system to gauge distance between you and the car in front of you, and it automatically maintains that distance. So if you're driving along in cruise control and some idiot's like sitting 10 kilometres below the speed limit, you come up behind them, the car will just automatically slow down to the speed they're going at. And then when you get a chance to pull out from behind them, it'll automatically go back to the speed you were going at. Friggin' brilliant! I love it. That's the cruise control that I want. But this car doesn't have it. So that was a little bit of a step down. It's not something I really complain about. I'm not really worried about it. It's fine. It's just that this is an older car. It's an 8-year-old car. I think you've got to go with like a 2014 or 15 or something in the Peugeot model before you get that feature, or even later. It's not that big a deal, but I liked it. Again, along the lines of the automatic headlamps, it's just one of those things that it takes a lot of the effort out of some of the things you have to do while you're driving. Like, if you have cruise control, one of the things that's annoying about cruise control is that when you have to brake, it turns it off. So then when you get a chance to put it back on again, you have to put it back on. And in the Peugeot, that's a very efficient process. It's a lot simpler in one press than a lot of cars that make a bit of a meal of it. But still, it's still something you got to think about. In the Subaru, you can just pull out. It just do it. You didn't have to think about it. You didn't have to turn the cruise control on or off or reset it or anything. It just did it for you, which is brilliant. So that's the cruise control in this car. It doesn't have that feature, which is fine. But it does otherwise work quite well. So this also has cornering lighting, so you've got a couple of fog lamps. You can turn them on. You're not really supposed to use them over 60 kilometers an hour or something. I forget what the law is. They're not supposed to be used all the time. But what this car has a feature, if you're going under 40 kilometers an hour and the fog lamps aren't on, when you turn left or right, it'll light the respective fog lamp. They call it cornering lighting. So if you're turning left, your left fog lamp comes on, and vice versa if you're turning right. And the idea of that is it will, at low speeds, it'll light the road a little bit off to the side. So if you're turning left in a dark alley or on a dark country road or something, and you need a little bit more light thrown on a situation just to be confident there's no bumps or potholes or anything like that, then you get that extra light. And I haven't actually had a chance to test that out in a situation where I can say it's definitively useful, but I will. I'd say it will be helpful. But anyway, it's a cool feature and a kind of well thought out feature, repurposing the fog lamps for cornering lighting. And actually, the way I noticed, because I had read that in the manual, but it didn't really click until I was driving along in a shopping centre car park, and I saw it was night time, and I saw that only one of my fog lamps was lit. And I was like, what's going on there? Have I blown the bulb in one of my fog lamps? And then it clicked. I was turning. That was the cornering lighting that the manual was talking about. So I stopped and faced towards a glass shop front and tested out. Turn left, the left one comes on. Turn right, the right one comes on. So that's a handy little feature, which I will see once COVID restrictions lift and I'm able to go back home again in the country. I'll be able to give that a good test run. I suspect it'll probably actually be pretty useful, because it's certainly something I've noticed in the past where when you're turning left or right in a situation like that where it's quite dark, there's no street lighting or anything, you can sometimes be like, oh, is there a ditch there? That kind of thing. So I think it might be quite useful. So what else? Interiors, okay. The Bluetooth system is really good. It syncs your contacts, and you can make calls and pull up your call list, do all that sort of stuff, and that works quite well. I just have it permanently, my Bluetooth permanently on, and so as soon as I jump in the car, the phone connects, and if a call comes in, I can answer it. Run one press of the touch screen or the steering wheel. And that works very well. There's no voice control. It's a little bit more old-fashioned than that. After all, it's a 2012 car. And the call list is something like only I don't know, 20 positions or something like that. So if I've called, I sometimes can't see calls from the previous day in the call list. So I am finding that's a little bit of a restriction in terms of being able to call people just from the steering wheel controls without having to touch my phone. So I am occasionally finding if I need to call someone and it's not a callback of someone who's just recently called me, I end up in a scenario where I have to pull over, open my phone, pull up their contact and call them, and then I can get going again, and it connects through the car system. But I'm really not a fan of getting $1,000 fine for touching my phone while driving, which is what the situation is in Queensland at the moment. And fair enough, you should not touch your phone while you're driving. It's stupid. Maybe touching it just to pull up a contact isn't so bad. Texting is really stupid. But in either way, I mean, they can't have to kind of decide whether you're texting, whether you're touching your phone. I think any kind of mucking around with your phone is distracting and should be illegal. So I'm down with all that. It's not an issue. But this car's Bluetooth system is a little lacking, and just in that respect. In every other respect, it's good, but in terms of that short recall list, it's a bit limiting. it's not, mostly I'm replying, someone's called me and I'm replying to them, or I'm answering them, so I see their name come up, I know who's calling me. I can deal with calls as they come in, which is 99% of what I do with my mobile phone. Or I need to call someone, but I call them up when I'm sitting before I leave, so that I can talk to them while I'm driving. So it's not, there's only a small number of cases where I find that not being able to find them in the call list is irritating. But anyway, it's not a big deal. That is one disadvantage with the system. Like I said, it's an old car, so it's actually a lot better than some of the other Bluetooth systems I've had to deal with in cars. So pretty happy with it. It also works well for audio, but what I do, this weird funny thing is that if I want to use my phone for sat-nav, because I don't actually have my sat-nav at the moment, which I will have that plugged in and working soon, but if I'm using my phone for spoken directions, it wants to connect, so it wants to push the audio out through the sound system because it's connected via Bluetooth, but for some reason the Bluetooth in this car, it'll pick up Bluetooth audio for calls, and it'll pick up Bluetooth audio for music playing on the handset, but it won't pick up the audio from the Google Maps app. I don't know why that is. There might be a solution if I just muck around with it, but I haven't looked into it yet. So what I've done instead is in the car settings, in the phone settings, for Bluetooth connection, I've disabled media audio, not phone call audio, just media audio. So what it means is that my phone connects to the car and then immediately disconnects the Bluetooth media audio, which means that if I then use Google Maps on my phone, the audio comes out on the phone, and I can at least hear it. Because if I don't do that, it doesn't play on the phone, but neither does it come out on the Bluetooth in the car. So I'm stuck with having to do it this way, and that's a bit annoying. I don't know what's going on there. It's weird. It's Bluetooth media audio. It shouldn't matter whether Google Maps is generating that or whether the music app is generating that. I don't know what's going on there. But anyway, it's a weird thing, and I'm not going to worry about it too much. I'll get my actual sat-nav unit set up on the screen, and then that'll solve that problem. But if you do enable the Bluetooth media audio and you want to use your phone for music, it works brilliantly. It's great. You can browse the media that's on your phone through the touch screen on the car, and you can pull up your music and play it that way. Fortunately for me, I don't. In this, at the moment, I use a USB. I don't use the Bluetooth I don't use my phone for audio because I don't want to suck the battery dry, or having to plug my phone in to the car USB power. I like to kind of go easy on my phone battery in case I need it sometime during the day when I don't have a chance to charge it. So I tend to just use the USB for audio, and I have quite a decent little playlist of stuff that I enjoy set up on my USB, so I just do that just plug that into the car and listen to that. So I don't really need the Bluetooth in my phone. I mean the audio in my phone, the media. So well, that's the stereo, and the car hands-free. From what I can tell, no one ever has trouble listening to me when I talk to them through the Bluetooth hands-free. So obviously the microphone works really well, which is something I've had trouble with Bluetooth systems before. So people can hear me, I can hear them. So talking to people via the Bluetooth is definitely very much usable and user-friendly and useful. Yeah, so that's just great. That was one of the when I was buying this car, I was upgrading from a Ford Festiva 1999. It didn't have automatic anything. It didn't have automatic windows. It didn't have even central locking. And nothing. But I loved that little car. It was a beast, and it just went and went. So I loved it. I loved that car. But I was needing to upgrade, and I was looking forward to getting a decent Bluetooth system so I could use my phone while driving, number one, and number two, so I could listen to decent music. Well, as I said, I use the USB for that. But just having a touchscreen, integrated touchscreen system on the car where I can access my media and my phone calls and just have an easy time of it. So another one of those things, are just hassle-free driving, so you can just focus on enjoying the drive. So that's all working out great. One of the there was something about that that I thought of for a second there. Oh yeah, the touchscreen. Okay, so it's like a, I don't know, 8-inch or something touchscreen. It's not a capacitance touchscreen like a mobile phone. Well, if it is, it's not a very good one. You pretty much have to stab at it pretty hard to get it to register. So it's not the most fluid touchscreen to use. It's not terrible. It's just not as smooth or sleek as tapping away at a phone screen, where it's just the barest tap brings up, the function that you're pressing on. So you've got to kind of focus. You've got to kind of stab at it a bit to get it to open the function. And it's not Android or anything like that. It's very, very OEM proprietary, kind of not super user-friendly system, but it gets the job done. I am thinking about upgrading it to a Docido or other system, like a third-party Android screen that you just goes into the same slot. You basically replace the whole thing with an aftermarket Android device, which you can also connect via Wi-Fi to your mobile. You can have your own, you can use Google Maps on that. You can use it. You can install apps. You can watch movies on it, stuff like that. Not when you're driving, obviously. I'll look at getting something like that. Have 10-inch ones. They'll be a little large, maybe. I don't know if I'd be happy with that, but I guess for the functionality would be worth it. I do wonder whether it would overheat, because I've had problems with Android devices overheating on the dash, but in Australian climate. So I haven't made a decision yet about whether I'm going to do that. It's like $600 or $700 or something. I can install it myself. So that might be a way to go to get some of those improvements I'm talking about, to overcome some of the negatives I've just mentioned about the built-in system, in particular the touchscreen, which is probably the most annoying. But overall, I'm very happy to finally have a car where all those functions are integrated into one display, and with steering wheel controls for changing track or station, for answering calls, for pulling up the call list, adjusting volume, track advance, all those kinds of things. That to me is, I mean, if you spend a lot of time in the car, those sort of things really make a big difference to your ability to just enjoy the drive, so anyway, yeah, so those are some pretty cool features. Okay, so what else can we talk about the interior? I realise I've talked for a while. I'm going to make this video is just going to be about the interior. I'll do another one on the performance and some of the mechanical issues I've had with this car. So anyway, the instrument cluster is really cool. You've got the digital speedo in the middle. You've got tacho and analog tacho and speedos to the side. You've got a really nice blue highlight that's completely and utterly without any functional merit other than it just makes the instrument cluster look really cool. You can turn that on or off. I like it. It is cool, and it's my favourite colour, blue. I can't really think of any way to justify it though, as in terms of functionality. But it's cool. In the centre you've got the digital speedo and a button where you can cycle that between speedo, between track listing, between current playing track or station, your current mileage, economy, speed, distance left, trip 1 or 2, and a couple of other screens of information. So you can just cycle through those, and that's right in the middle of your instrument cluster. That same information is also available on the screen, on the touch screen, with 1 or 2 button presses, depending on where you are in the touch screen at the time. So you have that, but I kind of prefer the digital speedo, even though I love analog gauges. You kind of look like, does it say 70? Does it say 72? Does it say 73? Like, what the goddamn speed am I going at when you're trying to make sure you're not triggering a speed camera or something? It's good to have that digital gauge there that just tells you exactly how fast you're going. That said, there's about a 4% inaccuracy in the speedo, and I checked that against various GPS devices, including the sat nav when I've got that plugged in, and the dash cam, and also my phone, and I've verified that all those 3 GPS devices are all the same. And GPS is very accurate once you're moving. So I'm confident that digital speedo in the middle of the screen, it's out by like 4 kilometers an hour, roughly, or maybe 3 if you're down around 60. So you just deduct the relevant figure off whatever it says, and that'll give you your real speed. And at least it's reading 100 when you're only doing 96 rather than the other way around. So it's kind of ruins a little bit the fact that it's not super accurate, but you can quickly deduct that figure off it, and it does at least mean you can use it to set the cruise control. So you just you make that deduction once. You go, okay, 404 kilometers an hour is 100. So you set the cruise control at 104, and you know that that's 100, not 98 or 102, something like that. So that is it. But analog dials are bloody cool. I love the look of them, and I do like to have them in the car. and are times when analog dials are better, especially with a tacho, or if you're doing time trials or something, you want to see the speed climb. That that analog needle bouncing up is much more useful than a kind of binary analog digital display where you can only see one number at a time. You can't see how it's tracking. So it is good to have the dials there, the analog dials. Yeah, so that's one last thing that I'll include in this review: the automatic light sensing rear view mirror. Okay, so this car's rear view mirror has, as most cars do, a feature where it'll go dark so that at night time lights behind you don't dazzle you. And what I've always hated about those, the flip down ones where you move a little lever and it kind of moves the mirror down, which moves a screen behind the mirror, which means the lights aren't looking directly at you; they're only reflecting off the glass, so that they're not quite dazzling you. But I always find that you can't see anything but the lights then, and I do not like that. So I've never used that feature in a car. Well, with this car, with this system, it's an automatic system, and it doesn't move any mirror out of the way. What it does is, depending on the amount of light, it adjusts it incrementally. So if there's a really bright light behind you, it makes it really dark, but you can still see the details because all you can see is the lights anyway. So that means the lights don't dazzle you. But if the light's a fair distance behind you, it'll just darken it a little bit, enough to take the dazzle out, but you can still see the road behind you and other objects, and that it doesn't make it so dark that you can't see anything but the lights. And that system, again, the Peugeot ergonomics works really well, I've got to say. Very, very happy with that. It's, again, a feature like with the headlights and automatic wipering, which are a feature which I've never bothered to use in cars before because it just didn't work that well. This one works really well. I've never sought to disable it in any way, shape or form. I'm not sure if you can, but it works perfectly. It's actually a really good feature, a really good safety feature, and just one of those things that inspires confidence. You know that you just don't get dazzled. It's just annoying being dazzled by people riding up your ass, especially if they've got their high beam on or their lights are maladjusted or whatever. And yeah, with this now you don't have to worry about that. Solves that problem altogether.